I'm delighted to be joined by St. Finbarr's hurler Damien Cahalane for the launch of this year's AIB All-Ireland Club Championships and the Camogie Championships also. This season, AIB will honour #the toughest players, those who persevere no matter the challenge ahead, given their all for their club and community year after year. AIB is celebrating its 10th year as proud sponsors of the AIB Camogie All-Ireland Club Championships and their 32nd year supporting the AIB GA All-Ireland Club Championships. Damien, delighted to have you on the show. How are things with you? Busy enough weather at the moment, I'd say, going from match to match, initially with Bars and Castlehaven, but obviously now just with Finbarrs.
Yeah, it was. Look, to be honest, it kind of worked out well. We had games every week, and I suppose for Castlehaven and the Bars and the Bars footballers as well, kind of winning games week on week, it kind of aided in the recovery, and that you weren't that sore mentally afterwards, so it was easy to kind of pick yourself up, dust yourself down, and go again the next week.
What was it like that the run through the championship, when obviously with the Bars you're all together on the one team, yourself and your brothers and so on, guys who line out with Castlehaven, but you would have had the Bars lads going for the double, but you have the Castlehaven lads who are coming up against some of those Bars lads, and you're trying to stop the double.
Yeah. Look, I suppose our own mindset was, right up until the semi-final, you're going for a double of your own. You're doing your best to win both championships for the club that you're playing for. So I suppose when it came down to it, it wasn't that we were kind of, negatively trying to stop a double or anything. We had the interests of our football club at heart, and you're trying to do the best you can there. And then you go out the next week, you're pulling on a Bars jersey, and again you're trying to do the best you can for the club there.
And is it ever odd to you lining out for two separate clubs? I mean, I know how it panned out, but is it ever odd to you going from one jersey to the other?
Not really, I suppose. It's something that we've become accustomed to over the years. We came from a Castlehaven family, I suppose, on both sides, and it was great to be able to go down and represent the club there, and your heritage and your bloodline and everything down there. And then, growing up then in Toker, kind of being able to go out and play with your best mates and your school friends and everything else. That was something special in itself as well. So I don't think there was any kind of anything we found odd about it growing up. I know it's a unique situation, and to everybody else on the outside looking in, it's probably a bit odd, but in that respect, I don't think it was ever odd to us growing up.
And what sport would you have gravitated towards most when you were young? Hurling, football, or was there another sport beyond that you were interested in?
I played a bit of everything when I was younger, and we did bits of athletics. We did, I had a bit of basketball. Played a lot of soccer growing up as well, and played with the Greenwood team that won the Under-16 National Cup in 2008 or 2009. And soccer would have been, outside of the GA, soccer would have been probably my main sport. But for us anyway, I think, I can probably speak for both my brothers as well. Growing up, is that it was always GA. For me personally, it was probably Gaelic football growing up, and then the older I got, I suppose there was opportunities came in hurling, and there were opportunities offered that I just couldn't turn down. Saw it as a challenge and took it on, and I'm happy with the last kind of 10 years I've had with playing hurling with Cork.
So what was it that lured you over to the hurling that you're talking about there that you couldn't turn down?
Yeah, I suppose when I was 16, I think Con Roach, Bars legend, gave me my opportunity with the Bars senior hurlers. I'd never played underage hurling for Cork up until that point. And I think after playing well that year, I got called into the Cork minors and did relatively well, and went back to my club then and had another good year at senior. Got called up to the Cork under-21 team, and did well at that level. And I think I was, 19, I think maybe, and got a phone call from Jimmy Barry Murphy. And, when you get a phone call from Jimmy Barry Murphy, who says no to that? Again, a legend in Cork, a legend all over the country. Growing up in our household, there was probably, Niall Cahalane, Larry Tompkins, John Cleary, and Jimmy Barry Murphy were the legends and the idols in our house. So when you get a call like that, you can't turn it down.
And being a kid and your father being so prominent, like, you were around those legends a lot growing up, I presume.
Yeah, we were, like, and it was something that I suppose from a young age you see the hard work that's done by guys to get to the level that they get to. So I suppose in one aspect you're aspiring to be them, but in another aspect, then you kind of see the work that goes into it, and I suppose you want to try and emulate what they're doing and start copying what they're doing. So you have good examples around you on the work that was being done. So it was good for us growing up.
And do you have any particular memories or nice stories of being involved in, in the dressing room with some of these, or maybe even just at matches or so on?
Look, I suppose one of my earliest memories of being down at training with Niall, I think Sean Og was only just after coming onto the panel as a young dual player, and I think there was one evening, Parky Ring, they were training, and I think Sean Og wasn't training for some reason, be it injury or be it that they had hurling coming up or whatever. And I remember having a kick around with him. And then, you fast forward a number of years, and in 2012, late 2011, for the start of the 2012 season, Sean Og is still on the panel. And, I'm a young kid, barely even driving, and he's collecting me from my house, coming across the city to collect me, to bring me to training and drop me home afterwards. Like, and you don't forget things like that. And in my head all the time, and I don't think I'd have mentioned it to him, but you're always looking back to the time that, Jesus, I remember when I was only a kid and kicking around the football with this guy, and he's one of your idols, and then you get to go out and train and play with him. It was, it was something special, like.
I came across a story from 2014. You were playing football with Cork at the time, and you had a bit of an accident after a game against Kerry that you lost 24 points to 12. Can you explain what actually happened there? Because I don't think I've ever heard you talk on the record about it.
Look, I went into the dressing room after the game. I think we had the hurling final the following week. We had been beaten well by Kerry, and you're just trying to get out of the place as quick as possible. So in I go, and look, I think one of the lads had been injured earlier in the game, and went in, and in my wisdom, straight into the shower, no flip-flops or anything on, and stepped on a stray piece of glass inside there. And and I was after the game. There was players still arriving in after the game, and I think maybe trophy just being presented outside. I had gone in to try and get myself ready for the hurling final the next week already. Fellas arriving in, seeing me being stitched by Dr. Khan in the table, and saying, did that happen in a game? Like, so I was kind of, I suppose, laid up for a couple of days after that, but got to play in the game the following week. Like, so I suppose all's well that ends well.
And that, like, I saw reports that was a medicinal vial or something, was it?
Yeah, I think it was something like that. I can't remember correctly what it was, but it hurt anyway, whatever it was. So.
And then was that hurling final the next week? Maybe I'm mixing them up. Was that the last game at the old Páirc Uí Chaoimh when you beat Limerick?
Yeah, that was the last game at the old park, and we beat Limerick that day on an absolute scorcher of a day. So yeah, it was nice to play on in the last game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and then you fast forward a couple of years and you get to play on one of the opening days there as well. So it's a fantastic facility now. Like, even that game against Blackrock, for the conditions that were there for the pitch to hold up so well was a credit to the groundsmen and everybody looking after the facility down there.
Yeah, so you've been on the road with Cork for more than a decade at this stage. But if you were to go back to maybe 17-year-old self, what would you tell him is going to come, and what advice would you give 17-year-old Damien Cahalane?
I don't know. I don't know what you'd say, to be honest. Look, I think you'd obviously like to think that you've learned a lot along the way, but those experiences are good for you as you learn, and as a 16, 17-year-old, just, keep your head down and keep working and, enjoy it as much as possible. I think when I was younger, possibly nearly concentrated too much on my hurling and my football. And your probably your education and your career and everything outside of that takes a backseat. And I think I'd probably say is, sort yourself out outside of it, and the on pitch stuff would look after itself.
You've obviously had some great days with Cork, but like most players, there's been a few tough days as well. And the odd time you've come in for a bit of criticism. I remember your brother once tweeted about it because I think he was frustrated about it. Can you talk to me what it's like being a county player when you are getting that level of criticism, and does it bother you?
Nah, look, does it bother you? I don't think it affects you going out in games. I think if anything, it probably drives you on to train a little bit harder and ensure that maybe it doesn't happen again, or it doesn't happen too often. But look, going out as a defender, you're marking the best hurlers in the country. Some of these guys are absolute magicians, wizards, like Sir Patrick Horgan now, even in training. So there are days you pit yourself against the best. You're going to come out on top some days. You're not going to come out on top on other days. So look, as long as you're safe in the knowledge of knowing that you've prepared as best you can, then that's all you can do. And I suppose up until this point in my career, I'm happy that some days, look, you're beaten. Other days you come out on top. But I know that I've given it everything that I can to I suppose ensure that I'm in the best possible position to perform on any given day.
And Cork have had plenty of naysayers in the previous few years, but I would say, looking at the players you have, that there is an All-Ireland this team. I'm not actually trying to put words in your mouth, but like, for example, the Galway game last year, I feel you left that behind you. The All-Ireland final the year before, obviously that got away from me. But even when you played Limerick last year, for the first half, things went against you, but you could see that you were able to live with them. So I feel like there is an All-Ireland in this group of players and the players that are coming.
Yeah, I think, look, there has to be that belief there, definitely. If you don't have belief and you're going back training and you don't believe that you can compete or that you can win, you're wasting your time. So there has to be that belief there. I think the talent is there, but you have to ground that then in hard work. And that's where you earn your stripes. That's where you earn your confidence. You earn your confidence in the hard work that you've done. So look, there's an exciting period ahead, I would like to think, for Cork hurling, but it just depends on, can we get the team in the right space? Can we get guys working really, really hard in training and in games, and have a real cut off it?
And then I suppose Ballier up next, and Tony Kelly obviously is the man that'll be on everyone's lips. But it's exciting heading into a Munster campaign, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it is. I suppose the club were 29 years or something without a county. Not that it mattered greatly to the playing group, but what I'm trying to say is that you don't know when the opportunity is going to come about again. So I suppose when that opportunity is there ahead of you, you want to try and make the most of it. So look, we enjoyed our celebrations, we savoured it, we digested it and took it in, and now it's parked and we're moving on to a new championship where every team that you're going to come up against from here on out are the county champions in their respective counties. There's no bad teams, there's no bad players left. It's just, it's going to be very, very tough to get over Ballier. I think we've a good team, but we have to go away for the next couple of weeks, do the hard work, and go and perform in Ennis, which is easier said than done. Go and perform in Ennis to give ourselves a chance to come out on the right side of it.
Yeah, and then to just ask you a final thing. You're a defender. Your brother Connor, middle eight, will say, half forward or midfield. And then Jack seems to be more of a corner forward. Is it just by pure chance that you all ended up in different parts of the field? Often you'd have brothers and they all play in more or less the same spot.
I think I was tried up in the forwards a few times and it didn't work out up there. So they shoved me further and further back the pitch. No, look, I suppose it just kind of happened that way. Connor originally, actually, I think made his debut with the Bars as a corner back. Right. Ended up then possibly afterwards maybe playing corner forward. and out in the middle of the field then. And look, Jack has always been an inside forward. He's the real classy individual, like, you know. But yeah, I think it's just pure chance we ended up where we are, like, and maybe playing to what our strengths were like growing up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, it's been brilliant chatting to you, Damien, and best of luck in the